Between the United States and Canada lies the world's longest international border, stretching over 8,800 kilometers. But what if I told you that this peaceful boundary hides some of the strangest, most confusing, and even hilarious borders on Earth? From towns split in half to invisible lines running through homes and airports. This is the story of the bizarre and fascinating borders between the USA and Canada you never knew existed. Stay with me, because some of these will completely change how you see North America. Let's start with one of the strangest examples, the towns of Darby Line in Vermont, USA, and Stansted in Quebec, Canada. These two towns look like one. The streets connect perfectly, the houses line up neatly, and the residents even share the same library. The famous Haskell Free Library and Opera House. But here's the twist. The US-Canada border runs directly through the middle of the building. The stage is in Canada, while the audience seats are in the United States. The library even has two addresses, one for each country. For decades, locals used to cross freely through these shared streets. But after 9/11, stricter border controls changed everything. Now, crossing from one side of the street to the other without checking in at customs can get you arrested, even if it's just a few steps. In some cases, the border literally cuts through people's homes. Imagine sleeping in your bedroom in the United States and having breakfast in your kitchen in Canada. Yes, there are homes like that, especially around the Quebec-Vermont border. One homeowner once joked that her husband was American, she was Canadian, and they technically lived in two different countries without ever leaving the house. These borders are invisible, but very real. A single misstep can mean crossing into another nation. Now let's talk about one of the most bizarre geographic mistakes in North America, the Northwest Angle. This tiny piece of land belongs to the United States but is completely surrounded by Canada and Lake of the Woods. It all happened because of an 18th century map error. When early surveyors drew the US-Canada boundary, they mistakenly followed the wrong latitude line, leaving this chunk of land isolated from the rest of Minnesota. Today, the only way to reach the Northwest Angle by land is to drive through Canada, pass two border checks, and then re-enter the US. It's America's only true mainland exclave, created by pure cartographic confusion. Between Blaine, Washington, and Surrey, British Columbia, stands a monument unlike any other, the Peace Arch. Built in 1921, it symbolizes more than a century of peace between the two nations. Above the arch are the words, "Children of a Common Mother." It's a beautiful reminder that despite our differences, Canada and the US share deep cultural and historical ties. Visitors can freely walk through the arch and cross from one country to the other, as long as they don't leave the surrounding park. It's one of the few places where the border feels invisible, both politically and emotionally. Another strange story lies in Alaska, America's largest and most remote state. The border between Alaska and Canada wasn't fully agreed upon until the early 20th century. British and American negotiators argued for years over where the line should be drawn through the rugged mountains of the Yukon. The result? A zigzagging border that still confuses travelers today. Some mountain valleys are technically in Alaska, but you have to drive through Canada to reach them. In winter, it's even more complicated. Frozen lakes sometimes make locals accidentally cross borders without realizing it. Many people forget that the US-Canada border isn't just on land. It also cuts through massive bodies of water, including the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario, are all divided by an invisible international line. Ships crossing the lakes technically enter and exit both countries multiple times, depending on their routes. And yes, this has led to some odd incidents, like fishermen accidentally crossing into another nation just by casting their line too far. Perhaps the strangest of them all is the border at the Piney Pine Creek Airport between Minnesota and Manitoba. Here, the runway literally crosses the border, one half in the United States, the other in Canada. Pilots landing here have to radio the correct control tower depending on which direction they're flying, and must go through customs if they step out on the opposite side. It's one of the few airports in the world that serves two nations simultaneously, a symbol of cooperation and geographic curiosity. The border between the United States and Canada might seem simple on a map, a straight line, stretching from coast to coast. But as we've seen, it's full of quirks, history, and human stories that remind us how imperfect mapmaking once was, and how unique our shared geography has become. From divided libraries and split houses to accidental enclaves and peaceful monuments, the US-Canada border tells a story of friendship, mistakes, and the strange ways nations connect. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through geography and history, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because in the next videos, we will be exploring the world's most fascinating stories. See you in the next video.